Okay, let's finish up these last bits of notes in level 1. So you just learned about GCF. The last thing to learn about is LCM, which is the least common multiple, okay? And real quick, I had a little mistake that got typed in your packet. This should say least common least common multiple. I need to change that. So we just go ahead and cross that off. I'll fix that for another time. Anyway, so we are talking about least common multiple. That's what this LCM stands for. So it's a little bit different than the greatest common factor. Greatest common factor, you were finding all these like numbers that were smaller than what you were talking about. You were finding factors, and then you were finding the biggest of those numbers. But with multiple, because we talked about how multiples, you can find an infinite amount of them. So we want to find the least common one, meaning what's the first one that the two numbers have in common. Okay? So multiples can be an infinite amount, and so we could always go bigger and bigger and bigger. We want to find the least common multiple so that it is like the first one that the numbers have in common. So the trick to solving LCM, very similar to GCF, is the division ladder. I'm going to show you how you can use that again to find the least common multiple. So that first number that the two numbers have in common. So we're going to try and find the LCM of 8 and 6. So before I do that, I want to show you that you can do something called listing the multiples, but I'm going to show you how the division ladder can help you do this a little bit quicker. But when you list the multiples, what you could do is start listing multiples for 8. So for example, if I list the first 5, which could be where you find the LCM, but it also could not be, meaning you have to go further. But you could just say, okay, 8 times 1 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16, 8 times 3 is 24, so on and so forth. And then list it for 6 as well. Again, just starting with the first 5, see if it comes together or not. So if I list these, if you follow them along, you'll see that the first number that these two have in common would be 24. If I kept going, they would have another multiple in common later down the row, so on and so forth. So that's why we want the least common multiple. We want the first number that they have in common. So I want that 24. But this can get really tedious and difficult to do when you're finding least common multiple if you have to list them. So I'm going to show you how to do the division ladder. So let's go ahead and do that. So don't worry about this. We're not going to deal with listing them. We're going to start out with the division ladder just like we did before. So you're going to have 8 and 6. So I'm just kind of moving these out of the way because we're not dealing with that. So we're going to have 8 and 6 in our division ladder, just like you have been. And you're going to start off the exact same way. So you're going to look at 8 and 6. What can you divide both of them by? Well, I notice that they're both even numbers, so I know that 2 goes into both of them. Make sure you're getting these notes down so you can refer back to them when you do your practice. So then I do 8 divided by 2 leaves me with 4, and then 6 divided by 2 leaves me with 3. And if I look at 4 and 3, they have no more factors in common. So now here's where the difference is. Before, when you just learned about GCF, you would have just focused on the number over here. So their greatest common factor would be 2. Well, in order to find the least common multiple, we're going to make this little, what I call an L around these, because instead of just focusing on the number on the side, we also need to look at the numbers at the bottom here. So we're going to circle those, and do you see how it kind of makes that L, like for LCM? So what you're going to have to do is take 2 times 4 times 3. So you're going to multiply all of these together now instead. So for GCF, you only focused on the side here because we wanted what we could divide them both by. But with multiples, we have to also include this bottom row here. So we're going to take 2 times 4 to get 8. 8 times 3 will give us that 24. So we just multiplied all those numbers. I'm not worried about the 8 and 6. I'm just taking whatever's on the side here and whatever's on the bottom. So let's say I had to do another number. Let's say it wasn't just one time. I had to do it again. I would multiply all those too, but you're only taking whatever's on this bottom row here. Okay, so you multiply it together, and that gives you your LCM of 24. So that is what this number means, is it's our LCM, our least common multiple. So just like when we did it here, listing our listing our multiples, 24 was the first one, but this way was a lot faster. So we're going to try that moving forward. So if you're still not sure, you can always go back and take another look or ask one of us for an example that we can help you with, or you can have us help you at the beginning of this practice. But you need to try and find the least common multiple for each pair of numbers here. And I know it says greatest common factor. I'm sorry for that typo again. It is asking for the least common multiple. So that is what it's asking for. So when it says LCM here, that's what I'm looking for. So sorry about that typo. I guess I need to read more carefully. Anyways, so you're going to go ahead and do these 6 problems, and when you are confident, you can come check with a teacher and we'll give you a teacher signature. If you're not sure, please feel free to ask for some help on this practice, or even try the IXL that's listed in the grid. Whatever you need, go ahead and do it. All right? Good luck. You can do it. Don't forget about that teacher signature.